Hey. Welcome everyone to a late stream. Let me explain what happened first. First of all, you may be hearing noises in the background. That's because I have the windows open for a change. It's actually cooler outside than inside. There you go. If you heard that, that's Venetian blinds making noise. If it gets real bad or if you find it annoying, I don't know how much the microphone picks it up. Just let me know and I'll close one of the windows and that'll take care of it. In fact, it might be annoying to me, so I might close it. So anyway, we had a bad storm and lost power. And I'm just now getting everything rejuvenated, so to speak. So that's the deal there. Are you guys hearing me? Just want to make sure. Things are different on the screen today. Remember I told you StreamYard charged me and they shouldn't have. I'm going to close this. This is annoying me. So I'll close one of them and that'll take care of it. If I can find it. Alrighty, we might still hear it a little bit, but that should stop the cross breeze for the most part. I have another window in the back that's open on the other side, so we might still get a little bit. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. So that's why we're late, and I really don't have much prepared, which this is like an open stream. It's just it threw me totally off. And I didn't think we were going to do it at all. I was like, I could still maybe squeeze it in a half hour late. So we don't have the heat issue today. And according to this, I don't have the StreamYard thing up there. They tried to charge me again. Remember I told you can't contact them? I wrote them several times. I wanted a refund. And then I went to my bank and did a little thing so they can't charge me. They tried to charge me again. It's just craziness. How many people have noticed you can sign up for stuff easy today? Try to find how to cancel. I really think they're going to have to pass a law to make it easy for you to cancel, as easy as it is to sign up. Because some things this is the God's honest truth. I have used AI to, how do you cancel XYZ? And it'll give me step-by-step directions. Doesn't matter which one you ask, it knows. And because it's so hidden, how to cancel stuff, recurring, monthly stuff. So my apologies for not really being prepared, because it's just that threw everything off. It was a severe storm. You guys know I've been paying attention to weather since I was a kid, 5 years old, whatever, since I can remember. And I have never heard rain or seen rain come down as heavy as I saw today. I've seen cloud bursts. I've seen all kind of stuff. And it only lasted, that real severe heavy, it only lasted for about 10, 15 seconds. But it was intense. And I looked at the at the blacktop outside of my driveway, completely underwater. Arizona doesn't drain well anyway. You get rain. There's no, or very rarely will you have a street that's got sewers or whatever, the drains and all that. They just don't have it here because it rains so rarely. And when it does rain here, it's this is the first significant rain in my area. Now it's hit and miss here in the desert. It can rain a lot 10 miles from here, and I never see a drop, or vice versa. This is the first significant, meaning the whole street's wet. That's significant versus just a drop here and there since probably here April. Something like that. So 5 months almost with no rain. So when the rain does come, the desert gets very dusty. There's a lot of dust on top, and I'm allergic to it, unfortunately. That's why I sniffle a lot. My apologies for that. Um, but right under that, right under the dust, which will blow easy. That's why we have dust storms. Um, it's a rock. It might as well be concrete. And so the water just runs off. And if the surrounding part of the road, whatever surrounds the road happens to be higher in elevation than the road, it all runs on the road. And then there's no place for it to run off the road. There's no ditches. There's no sewers, nothing. So anyway, went a little bit too long on to that. Let's see who's here. Mark Harris, good to see you, my friend. And KG Bear, coming to us from the Bible Belt. Good to see you very much. And who else we got? Nevermind. Hello, Nevermind and Angus. You actually got notifications? So did I, actually, I think. Yep. Rich Hopkins is live. I'm going to talk about my Mr. Thrive and Survive. You may have heard the news that channels are going to be reinstated. I'll get into that. We shall see. Right now, that is a benefit to YouTube to kick other people off. I'll explain. Hello, Michael B. Good evening to you as well. And off. Love the hand emoji. My maybe the battery in my mouse is ready to go. Good to see you, off. And your doggy. Oh, God, I love your doggy. And I know you do too. Never mind what has the countdown. Judson, also known as Weaving Steven. I'm glad you say that, Judson, because, or Weaving Steven, whatever one, because I still would like to know what that picture is, because I don't know you by Judson yet. Whale Oil Beef Hooked. Thanks for the 5x5. That's right. Open mic Friday. Yeah, think of it. You want to talk about any subjects? Let me know. Any questions, whatever, throw them at me. We'll see. Sissy May, good evening to you. Always good to see you, Sissy May. You're like, I think of Sissy May as my Aunt somebody, Aunt Sissy. One of those aunts that you just can't wait to go over their house and see them. That's what you remind me of, Sissy May. So hopefully that doesn't offend you in any way, because I had one Aunt Margaret, who could not wait to go over her house. She didn't live close, so we only visit her usually once a year, if that. But it was always such a pleasure. DMB, you had rain today for the first time in a while. And you're here, right, DMB? In Arizona? In the dry as dust desert? I mean, it's been so dry this year. Sissy May got notification. Good. Did you see that digital ID passes are they're necessary today? I'm going to reset this mouse. It's not working right. Digital ID passes today, and it's mandatory. Thank God I have a passport, because I have a trip coming up. Yeah, it's sooner or later. Why don't you just get it over with? We know where it's going. It's going to, why don't you just go to biometrics? Just do it. It's where it's heading, either retina scan, facial scan, thumbprint, whatever. It's going there. Why put it off? So what's the subject tonight? The subject is system collapse, and it's very shallow because, again, I didn't have much time to prepare. Oh, well, thank you, Sissy May. I look at you as being sweet. I look at Sissy May as being sweet, but as firm as you can get on certain stuff. Like certain things she isn't going to give an inch on. But she's open-minded and fair. That's the way I see Sissy May. Could be wrong, Sissy May. Rolos! In UK, it results in not being able to get a job. in UK, UK is the UK is 5 years ahead of us, 10 years ahead of where we could be, where we might be. If we didn't have Trump, we'd be there. Sissy May is the foundation of this channel. Let me cover some stuff first before I forget it. YouTube, if you haven't heard, has told Jim Jordan in Congress that they're going to restore everybody that they took down for quote unquote political reasons. And when I heard that, see, my channel was, I got to be careful what I say. I allegedly had a channel taken down for talking about it might not be the smartest thing to do to, it wasn't really the jab that got me. It was masks. That's what that was 2 of the 3 strikes, I think, masks. And with me, what they did was they gave me a strike on 2 different subjects, and I stopped talking about both subjects once they gave me a strike on it. But then what they did was they went back and looked, and I guess they had AI look at it or whatever. They looked at old videos. We do 2, 3, 4, 5-hour streams, and we could talk about anything. The title tonight is System Collapse, and we might talk about Bible subjects. Who knows? Or we might talk about COVID or whatever. Who knows? What's going to come up. Anything and everything can come up on this stream, and it usually does. And I think that's one of the things that sets my stream apart from a lot of the others is you go to another stream, you get one subject, they're going to stick to that one subject. And I could certainly do that. And we've done that pretty much, on some things, like when we went through the Hell series. But even then, when I'm done talking, it's open for anything. You guys know that. We can switch subjects. So what they did with me was, like with COVID, with the masks, I said masks don't do anything. It's been proven in science. I have a low degree. I have an associate's degree in a medical field. And one of the first things you learn, I think it's 2 weeks in, is that masks don't protect you against anything, any germ, any disease, anything. It's not designed for that. It doesn't do it. It's designed to protect the patient from having droppings from your nose or mouth going into an open wound. As you're tending to it, or as a surgeon is there cutting you open, he doesn't have spit from his mouth go into your wound. That's what a mask is designed for. It's not designed to keep you safe from getting disease. But we all know that was pushed. And the reason why it was pushed was that was a way to get it in front of everybody's faces. Oh, there's a big problem. You got to wear a mask. It's so bad. You have to have a mask anywhere in public. Right. And that was part of the propaganda to traumatize people into taking a product. It was all designed to get you to take a product. And it worked for the vast majority of people. It worked. Now, some people took it. I'm getting deep into something, but some people took it because they had to. They had to provide for the family, and they were forced for, at least for a while, and depending on what field you're in, under the Biden administration, if you had 100 or more employees for a while, you had to take it. If you were in the military, you had to take it. That's why so many people left the military, and why so many people rejoined after Trump came in, because he said, yeah, if you were kicked out for that, that's wrong. You should be able to come back in. So I stopped talking about the mask as soon as I got a strike on it. But they went back and found a video titled, how do trees turn green or whatever it was. And we talked about a mask in there. So they gave me another strike. The other thing I talked about was irregularities in the 2020 election, of which I had a live stream and called out the irregularities on the spot as they were happening. Now, what most people don't know, because the mainstream media isn't going to cover it, almost everything that I talked about has not only been discovered, but it's been, verified by either the governments of those states or attorney generals in those states, whatever. Hardly a couple of weeks go by, I don't see another thing where, oh, in fact, I just did in fact, we'll look at it if I can find it real fast. A video has surfaced that showed, I got it right here. Now, if this is YouTube, oh, it's X. Shoot. I'll read it to you. Over 1 million documents related to overthrow of the U.S. government during the 2020 election obtained by whoever this person is, somebody Miller, through the Freedom of Information Act, confirm conspiracy day was November 3rd, 2020. That was the election of 2020. And there's a related video here. Shoot. Unfortunately, it's on X. 3 hours and 15 minutes after polls closed in Michigan, Dana Nassel and Jocelyn Benson loading thousands of Biden's ballots into a minivan with Indiana plates. This car goes to Michigan. Same thing happened in Pennsylvania, where a truck driver, nonpartisan, he's not involved in the election at all, but he came forward and said, I drove a truck full of ballots from out of state. I think he was from New Jersey, actually. Went through New York and then into Pennsylvania, because that's how you typically make the drive, I think. If I remember correctly, that's correct. Anyway, he said that he had a truck packed full of ballots that were out of state that he drove to Pennsylvania on election day. That they used, they unloaded them in Pennsylvania, and guess what? They counted them. So Michigan was one of the swing states that flipped 3 or 4 days after the night of the election, and so did Pennsylvania. So anyway, he loaded thousands of Biden's ballots into a minivan with Indiana plates, driven by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She drove the van herself, and there's a video of it that you can see it. No, nothing unusual to see here. See, I've watched elections since Nixon was running against Humphrey. Now, I wasn't that old then, and I actually, believe it or not, was rooting for Humphrey only because the underdog. That's it. I was 7 years old. What did I know? Okay. 4 years later, I knew a lot because I was very interested in politics. And it was Nixon versus McGovern. And I was very much rooting for Nixon, who, by the way, I'll say it again if you weren't here before, since they've been doing presidential polling, they started doing that in the Eisenhower administration. Since they've been doing, so you had Eisenhower, maybe Truman too. Eisenhower for sure. Eisenhower, Nixon, Johnson, all the way up to today. Of course, they've been doing presidential polling. The most popular president ever during that period, and for a sustained period of time, was Richard Nixon. Just a little side note. You'd think he was the biggest Hitler ever with the revisionist history. But anyway, I've been watching elections closely, and until the wee hours of the morning since 1972. Never missed any. And we did a live stream on the 2020 election. In fact, did I do a live stream in 2016? No, I wasn't doing live streams then. I was doing Mr. Thrive and Survive. But hello, Peter. Good to see you. And Angus. Angus never wore a mask. See what happened? We know what happened to Angus. He never wore a mask. Okay. And now he's a Winnipeg Jets fan. See what happens? Good to see you, Angus. So anyway, morning, huh, Peter? Or evening for you? Whatever. We're worldwide. Just ask Ulf. It's very early in the morning for Ulf. In fact, I think it's the next day. So, you talk about getting on a subject we're not even talking about. And then you see batches come in, which Hitler would be proud of. Oh, we have 104,000 ballots came in. 104,000 ballots. Okay, mail-in ballots, of course. That's how you cheat, mail-in ballots. That's why I hope Trump can get rid of them. 97.8% of them are for Biden. Hitler didn't get that. Stalin didn't get that. Putin doesn't get that. Nobody gets that. But they needed that much because that's how far behind he was. Anyway, all I did was mention that there's irregularities. Strike. But anyway, that's what got me tossed. Mr. Thrive and Survive. 52,000, I believe, subscribers. Now, there's a trap if you try to get it back. There is a, you got to make sure it's for real. Alex Jones found out it's not for real. He's okay. He opened an account, posted a video. I think he said at 7 p.m. he posted the video, something like that. 2 a.m. So 6-7 hours, whatever later, bam, they took down the channel. So is it for real or is it not? We shall see. Now, YouTube's policy is as follows. This is why you got to be careful. If you are taken down off of YouTube, you're not allowed to create another channel. You're done forever. That's their policy. So I'll leave it at that. So, with all that said, that covers that. 22 minutes later. From the Netherlands near Amsterdam, huh, Peter? Awesome. I'd love to get there. I'd love to get to the Low Countries. One of the places I'd love to see. For sure. I'll bet it isn't too hot there right now. Anyway, we got 80-some degrees weather. It's probably in the 60s now. Fantastic. First break, really, from at or near or above 100 degrees since probably around May 10th. So that's what's nice about having a rainstorm and whatever is coming through. Alrighty. Now, how many people, you don't have to answer, but it's kind of rhetorical. How many people know Victor Davis Hanson? He is a scholar. He's got a channel called The Daily Signal, or he talks on a channel called The Daily Signal. He's got his own website. He's got his own channel too. He's an author, very smart guy, a little too institutionalized for me. What do I mean by that? You get a certain amount of education and it's hard to pull you out of certain boxes. It just is. Now, I really like the guy, but you know, he's a little bit pro, how can I put this? He's for a little bit too, for me, he's too pro or one-sided towards a country that's not the United States. I'm USA all the way. Just the way it is. Some of these countries that we think are our friends are not our friends. They're our biggest enemies. It's just the way it is. I'm not going to get into that tonight. You guys know who and what I'm talking about if you've been here long enough. I saw, I know I'm all over the place. I saw the video that probably many of you have seen where someone did a deep analysis, close up. Thank God it was only one frame into the shot being fired at Charlie Kirk. He was definitely shot from the back. And it was a headshot. And the exit wound was the neck. So there's that. I'll leave it at that because I don't really know that much else except for what we're being told about that is not the truth. And if you're not being told the truth about something like that, you have to wonder if someone so powerful is pulling the strings so you don't know the truth. I'll leave it at that as well. USA first. I'll leave it at that. Charlie was making some enemies because he wasn't towing the line. And I'm hoping, although I think the hope is very low, that the actual honest truth will come out about this. I don't think it will. But I do hope and I pray for it. Speaking of being shot in the back and all that stuff, this is just random stuff tonight. What do people on here think of Bill O'Reilly? I think he is unbelievably bad, terrible. Now, he's okay, I guess, with his politics, is whatever it is. Talk about being stuck in a box. He's stuck in a, not an institutional box. He's stuck in the box of being in mainstream media for too long. And so he thinks like they do, and it's all wrong thinking. It's stinking thinking. And he's made a lot of money selling books. And his books, I don't know about all of them, but there's one in particular. I want to know when he wrote this book. Let's find out. When was Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing Kennedy, published? 2012. It was published in 2012. Okay. A couple weeks ago, I'm with the veterans on a Friday, and one of them talks about Bill O'Reilly says blah, 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 blah. And of course, these people are all on the right politically. And so because Bill O'Reilly's on the right, he's the man. He's crap. You have to be able to recognize that just because someone may be the same politically pretty much as you are, and he really isn't. He's more of a rhino type. And he tries to hide that, but it comes out. And I almost busted out laughing because he's holding him up to be an authority. Now, he's written, let's see how many books he's ripped people off on. How many books have been written by Bill O'Reilly? More than 15. Killing Jesus. Well, we don't know who killed Jesus. See, he's supposed to explain this stuff in his books. I guess the Gospels aren't good enough. Even secular historians like Josephus and all that, they're not good enough. So let's see what else he's got here. So I just saved that before it went off my screen, I saved it as a photo. And he makes money on death because people are into who killed us. Everything's a conspiracy. Well, the reason why everything's a conspiracy is because most things are. But when you dig into him, he doesn't believe in conspiracy. He's in the box of mainstream media, mainstream thinking, mainstream government, although he makes you want to think that he's not. So let's take a look at this. I don't know what these are. Killing Jesus, had no clue he wrote a book about that. And we're going to find out exactly what his conclusion is on that, because AI can tell us. Killing Patton. Now that's interesting because he probably thinks that Patton died because he was in an accident at 5 miles per hour in a car and it broke his spine. He's the only one who was even injured. Never mind. Killing Patton. Killing Lincoln. And killing Kennedy. I know what his conclusion is on killing Lincoln. His conclusion is the story that you've been told about killing Lincoln. John Wilkes Booth and the other co-conspirators is absolutely 100% true. To be honest, I haven't looked into it that deeply, but I know that to me personally, I don't think the motivation to kill Lincoln, what had to do with the Civil War and slavery and all that. That's me. He wanted to get rid of central banks and banking and reform all that. You have one thing in common with every president that's been assassinated, which I think there's been 4. Every single one had some sort of plan to go either away from central banking or off of the Federal Reserve, including the current president. If you don't know what's going on there, we can talk about that. Trump is definitely in the process of getting rid of the Fed. You just have to understand Trump speak and how he does stuff. See, what I do is I study how people do things. Not necessarily what they say, but what they do. Killing Jesus. I got to look up and see what he says about that. See if he agrees with the Gospels. I'll bet he does, just because he agrees with all the mainstream. Killing Patton, killing Lincoln, and killing Kennedy, as well as the illustrated counterparts intended for children. The last days of Jesus. How do you do this to children? How do you illustrate to children someone being shot in the head or crucified? I don't know. I'm not saying they shouldn't necessarily know, but I don't know how you would illustrate that for kids. I guess we'll have to look it up. Kennedy's last days. Killing Kennedy wasn't enough. And Lincoln's last days. Because Bill O'Reilly, he's old. He was there. How many people know that let me give just a little for someone who may not know. I'm sure 99% of the people know on here. Hey, Peter, that vitamin D3, you can enhance absorption if you take it with magnesium, just to let you know. And vitamin D3, if you don't have it in a format, see, that's a fat-soluble vitamin. You can get vitamin D that has fat with it, liposomal vitamin D. Usually a lot of the vitamin K and D combinations, they'll have some sort of fat with it. It just helps with absorption. What most people don't know is that magnesium really helps absorption, and it's hand in glove with vitamin D. And if you want to know what type of magnesium, if it says ATE at the end, biglycinate, glycinate, citrate, ATE, it's good. If it's anything else with magnesium, don't take it. It's bull crap. It ain't going to do what you want it to do. So if it says 8 at the end, it's good with magnesium. So we all know what happened in 1963 and what the government said. And then we had the CIA calling people conspiracy theorists, who, once the Zapruder film was released, people looked at it and said, hey, something ain't right here. Like the film by Oliver Stone. What was it called? Was it called JFK? I think it was called JFK. Where you had Kevin Costner, who played the Louisiana or New Orleans district attorney? And he says it over and over, back and to the left, back and to the left, back and to the left, talking about his head, how it recoiled when it was shot, back and to the left. Anybody, any hunter who has ever shot anything, anyone who knows anything about physics, so that's a lot of people on both, especially in the United States. Okay. Anything that recoils away, if something goes forward and to the right, that means they were shot from the back to the left. It's not hard physics. So when his head went back and to the left, it means he was shot front right. But The CIA and the government want you to think that the laws of physics ceased to exist in Kennedy's limousine in November of 1963. Hello, Dean Floyd. Good to see you. Oh, Mary Surratt was my friend's great-great-great-grandma. That just has to do with Lincoln. First woman hanged in the U.S. for aiding and abetting the assassination of President Lincoln. That's right. And I think the only other woman hanged since then or executed since then was the Rosenberg woman. I think. I could be wrong. So, back and to the left. He was shot at least once from the front right. Has to be. But you didn't get anything except for that district attorney in the mid-1960s or early to mid-1960s had that was true what Oliver Stone was showing there. Now I don't know the exact details of how accurate he was with the court drama and all that stuff, but it was actually true. And what he said in there was, and you know, he has a little bit of a dissertation. This was a whatever, a coup, and Lyndon Johnson was in the wings. Now, he isn't the only one that's implicated, Lyndon Johnson. So if you are a murder investigator, okay, you're a Columbo, you're a murder detective, you work in homicide. One of the strongest things you have, especially in a murder, okay, is motive. So if someone is murdered, you want to eliminate 99.99% of the possible suspects, find out who didn't have a motive. Or in the reverse, find out who did have a motive, and then you can hone in on it. Anyway, so no matter what, we saw which way his head went. You don't need to know anything else about the film, nothing. You can see that. Okay. So, but if you ask questions about that, you're a conspiracy theory. Now, in the 1970s, Congress reopened the whole thing. 77, I want to say. When did Congress have a hearing and talk about the Kennedy assassination and came to the conclusion that Oswald was not the lone assassin? It was the United States House Select Committee on Assassinations, waiting for it to load. 1976. It was a couple years off or 1 year off. Okay. They concluded that the official story was likely, this is the best you get out of Congress, not correct. Too many controversial things, too many contradictory things, okay? Like the magic bullet and all that stuff, you know. If you have to come up with a bullet that goes through two people, changes directions twice at least while it's going through the people, goes in and out of bones, and then ends up on a stretcher next to Kennedy at the hospital, and it's pristine, like it was never fired even, or fired into a box filled with cotton. Something ain't right. Because they couldn't fit the amount of shots into the amount of time. Okay, and nobody could make that amount of shots. So, or whatever, I might be off on the number. So they were like, nobody can make 4 shots in 3 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever the numbers are. Nobody, no expert could do it, but they could do 3, not 4. So how did they get around? Oh, they have a magic bullet. Because they were like, okay, this bullet did this. One obviously went through Kennedy's neck, which, by the way, the doctors who actually performed the autopsy on Kennedy said was the entrance wound was in the front, not the back.
The entrance wound was in the front. They also said the back and to the left shot. They said the entrance wound was front right, which means the head would go back left. Oh, just like physics would tell you. It's like physics tells you you can't have a rocket work in space. Now, you can pull up AI and they'll go through bullshit. You know what AI tells you if you give them a whole bunch of space stuff? They search YouTube videos and come back with mainstream bullcrap. That's what they give you. I was arguing with AI the other day about it. And finally I said, you're not allowed to use YouTube videos. It kept going there anyway. It would stop for 1 or 2 prompts and then it would go back. I said, you're not allowed to use them. Oh, sorry. And the bull crap that they've come up with that. But anyway, doctors, 2 of them who actually did the autopsy, said that was an entrance wound, and when you saw on the Zapruder film his head blow out, that was the exit, not the entrance. That was, which kind of makes sense. That's how it kind of works. The entrance wound generally doesn't blow out something like that. It's the exit wound that does. Usually the entrance wound is pretty clean, comparatively speaking. So anyway, something came up with Bill O'Reilly when we were at the bar, and I was like, I can't even believe it. And I said, I know. I didn't know until later. I was like, I know, because he can't think outside the box, Bill O'Reilly. He can't think outside the box. He makes himself out to be this big outside the box guy, but he's not. He's a BS artist. He's a shyster. He's no better than Pastor Nolan. I can't stand people that are ingenuous, and then their big thing is, oh, I'm so credible and I would never say anything that's not, genuine. Bull crap. That's all you do. So I'm thinking to myself, I know he came to the conclusion the Warren Commission did. Anyway, he does this book in 2012, Killing Kennedy. So in the 1970s, if it isn't anything else, they do a whole bunch more study and talking to doctors and witnesses, and Congress, who never says anything definitive, because God forbid we might step on somebody's toes, said the Warren Commission was wrong. Oswald didn't act alone. They don't know who did, but it wasn't him acting alone. That was their conclusion, basically. And of course, between then and now, we have all kind of people who are actual experts, can post stuff online. We didn't have that until after 2000, and when the internet came, and you still didn't have it for 5, 6, 7 years after that, because it was so antiquated. You had AOL and chat things online. That was basically it. It was a long time before you got to where you could search and find something that was relevant. You can search video. By 2012, you can do all kind of stuff. And all kind of stuff was released, and everybody knew. Everybody who's not stuck in the circus of believing the government or whatever you're told every time knows that Kennedy was a conspiracy to kill him. The greatest shot ever was Lee Harvey Oswald. And he defied physics. Because the laws of physics, not only do they not exist on the stove, okay, in My Cousin Vinny, remember that scene? It doesn't exist in Kennedy's car. His head went back and to the left, and what they want you to think is that means he was shot in the back. Defies physics. You don't need any witnesses. You don't need anything. You need your freaking eyes. If I was shot right now, okay, and my head did this or did this, I was shot in the front. If I go forward first, I was shot in the head from the behind, right? It says the physics don't lie. Because this phone is more dense than the air around it, if I let go, it's going to drop 100% of the time. Back and to the left 100% of the time means he was shot in the front right. Well, the doctors testified to that. No doubt about it. Not only that, but the angle wasn't right. Because one of the Congress people asked him, well, could it be wrong that the wound actually was an entrance wound in the back of the head and came out the front? Not wrong for asking the question. He said, well, that's not consistent with medical results. However, let's just say that was the case. He said, then the shooter in the back wasn't somebody in a warehouse up on the whatever seventh story or whatever floor he was on, because it came from ground level. The angle was ground level. He said they traced the back from knowing the angle that came into his head, looking at the film. Okay, he's looking straight ahead. He's not up. He's not down. He's not anything. He's looking straight ahead. So we know when the bullet hit, he said in the throat, there's no doubt about it. It was ground level. Ground to very slightly elevated, like maybe on a slightly elevated grassy knoll in the front. The headshot, ground level to very slightly elevated. Could not be from an elevated position in the back. So maybe Oswald shot, I don't think he did, but let's just say he shot at Kennedy. It wasn't what killed him. Oh, and by the way, you know what killed Kennedy? This one. The doctor said he was dead after that. The head wound, he was already dead. And the public was told for years and years and years and years that Kennedy got to the hospital. They worked on him for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40, whatever the time period was. And then finally they pronounced him dead. So he arrived alive. And the doctors did their best to keep him alive. See, this all sounds like a great story. That's a much better story than he was dead when he got there. The doctor said he was dead in the car. But anyway, they said nobody could survive. Where it hit him in the throat, nobody would survive it. Did Charlie Cook? I don't think he was struck in the neck to start with, but where he was struck in the neck, he didn't survive it. Nobody could. It's just the way it is. So I come home and I have the book summarized by AI. What was the conclusion of the book? Now, how many freaking pages is this piece of crap? How many pages are in the Bill O'Reilly book, Killing Kennedy, The Death of Camelot? 336 effing pages. All he had to do was print one page and say, I have the same conclusion, which he does, as the Warren Report. Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and was the lone assassin. Can you imagine buying that book, reading 336 pages, and that's his conclusion? I'd be ready to slap Bill O'Reilly if I saw him in the street, probably, for wasting my time and money. You can get the Warren Commission report free. There's plenty of videos online where they come to the conclusion. That Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone assassin. Because that's what the government's. If the government said Mickey Mouse shot Kennedy from Disneyland, and they knew exactly where to aim into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere to get the bullet to hit him, and that's what happened, people would freaking believe it. These people, we have so many people that are just gone. They're gone on both sides. RFK comes out the other day, because he's part of the Trump administration. That's important here in a second, that little fact. And says, taking Tylenol during pregnancy, there's strong indications that that can lead to autism in children. What are the indications? Countries that don't allow Tylenol don't have autism. That's one indicator. People that they followed who didn't take Tylenol when they were pregnant, they didn't have kids with autism. And there's other correlations that they're not sure of yet, but we'll just stick with the Tylenol for now. Because there is other stupid correlations that because the government says do it, do it. And because Trump or somebody in his administration says don't do it, we live in and this is getting us into the subject a little bit here. System collapse. Trump says there's no reason to give a baby hepatitis B vaccine when they're born, unless the mother has hepatitis B. Because the only way you get hepatitis B is through sexual contact or intravenous drug use with somebody who's got hepatitis B. Dirty needles. Those are the two ways you get it. You used to be able to get it through through blood transfusions, but you can't get it that way anymore because they test the blood. It's an easy test. You donate blood, they test it for Hep B. If it has Hep B, they toss it. So you have these morons because this is how mentally gone people are. It's a testimony to the fact that people have lost it and they are, I hate to say mentally retarded because that puts down the mentally retarded. They're beyond that. They are so programmed that they should be in mental institutions. So you had people go on TikTok in particular, I'm sure it was every platform, pregnant women who were going to show that there's nothing wrong with Tylenol. So they're pregnant and they're sitting there making videos. They're dumping out Tylenols and eating them on the video. As if they're so brainwashed. They think that they're being told that. I don't know what they really think. And that it's just BS. And maybe the Trump administration is just against the Tylenol big pharma company. Well, Tylenol themselves came out, I don't know, 2008, 2009, something like that, and said, if you are pregnant, we do not recommend you use any of our products, including Tylenol, especially Tylenol. Tylenol themselves said, if you're pregnant, don't use it. Tylenol is a poison. Just like fluoride is a poison. I brought fluoride up at my last dental cleaning. Oh, boy, I shut that down fast. See, because I can't talk a lot because I got crap going on in my mouth. Brain dead. You went to school. You got indoctrinated. Could not talk this dental clinician out of how that fluoride's good for you. This is where we are here. Same thing like global warming, believe in it, with no scientific data. They have to make up stuff and crap on the data itself, take stuff out, add stuff in. We've talked about that ad nauseum here before. If something is true, you don't have to manipulate the data. Anyway, so these people, one person so far is either dead or might as well be. From pregnant woman taking Tylenol, she killed her liver. Tylenol is very toxic to the liver. It's called a hepatotoxic or toxin. She went into liver failure And I think it was the nurse who did a video said that don't do this. She went into liver failure after doing this TikTok bullshit. She said she's dead. She's on a ventilator. The ventilator's keeping her alive. And she says she's never coming off the ventilator because she killed her liver. And so the baby's dead too. So we have people in this society that are so messed up. They're not just seeing things from the wrong side. They're actively making idiotic and drastically wrong decisions based on being ultimately and severely propagandized in their own head. This is what you get when you have, and I don't know what the solution really is. I do know one, but when you have media like MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, et cetera, ABC, NBC, CBS, ABC probably the worst on its own, constantly drubbing in the propaganda. And you have the same players doing it too. The same politicians. You know what happened to Charlie Kirk, right? And finally, someone from the left said we need to tone down the rhetoric. You know who that was? Let me see if I can find it. If you haven't heard, you're not going to believe who this was. Really? This person said that? If I can't find it here, AI will find it. I want you to listen to this. See if you can spot the propaganda. Let me see if it'll play first. Oh, it's not the video. Wow, my mouse does not want to work. What's going on with my mouse? Oh, here it is. Let's see if it'll play for me, and then I'll. Oh my God! She said we, and started to say half, and I can't stand her so much. Anyway, listen to this. Somebody on their side finally said we have to tone down the rhetoric. Well, what's wrong with that, Rich? Well, let's listen and see. If I can get my mouse to work. That was pretty quick finding that video, actually. I guess. Trump is going to announce that drinking piss is not good. Oh my God, never mind. You're right. Did anybody see Ben Affleck's daughter speaking at the UN wearing a COVID mask? She wants to actually. This is how bad it is. And this is, believe it or not, this is the subject tonight. It's all ties in. Thank you very much. Never mind. Ben Affleck's daughter goes to the United Nations wearing a stupid mask. She's got an N95 mask. It's better, but as soon as she fumbled with it once or didn't have it professionally fitted, it's no different than wearing a mask from Walmart. That's another thing people don't know. Anyway, she goes to the UN and thinks that the COVID pandemic is never going to go away unless we get a mask mandate for everybody in the world. That's why she's at the UN. Why would they let somebody like that speak there in the first place is beyond me. I guess everybody's got a right to a voice, even a Sicko. And then I'm thinking, what kind of father was Ben Affleck to raise somebody like this? She thinks that the pandemic is still going and it's going to keep going unless we get mass mandates, as if that ever stopped anything. You see, what it is they got the first half of the news. All right. They got the bullshit that the masks are going to stop the spread of the virus so that people would buy a product, so they would be all tensed up and upset and worried. Like I said, the United States isn't the land of the free and the home of the brave. Because we're the home of the wimps, we're not free. And so people are cheering mask mandates. In fact, they were after you if you didn't want to wear a mask. It's your fault. You should be before a firing squad. Some people actually thought that because you're killing others. Forget the fact that science forever has shown that masks don't stop a germ. They don't stop anything. So the mainstream media funded 75% in their newscasts by Big Pharma. They're not trying to get you to buy their products. Yeah, they'll air a commercial about X, Y, and Z drug. You can't buy it by looking at the commercial anyway. And if you have a doctor that's got any kind of respect and decency at all, he isn't going to give you a drug just because you saw it on a commercial. He'll give you the drug if he thinks that's what you need for your disease. So Big Pharma isn't getting people to buy the product. They're buying lies from the media, or they're buying a cover-up so that they don't investigate anything against Big Pharma, because that's the hand that feeds you. And so this Ben Affleck's daughter heard the bull crap during the pandemic, and she hasn't heard the real story that not only would masks do nothing during it, but they've never done anything for any kind of disease or germ or whatever. Which, if you're not on one of the propagandized outlets, you've heard it. You know it's truth now. It's come out even in congressional testimony. She's only listening to them. It's the same people that took the Tylenol. They're so propagandized, anybody else is lying to them. And I unfortunately know somebody in my family who's pretty close to this. I won't say, but it's somebody I love dearly. Anyway, self-realized, good to see you. So let's listen to this. We need to tone down the rhetoric, Hillary Clinton says. I agree with that part of it. Wow, so hard to get to it. Let's listen.
We haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we fought a civil war over part of it. And people have been protesting, for hundreds of years that, things were not as they should be given our ideals and how we should be moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country. And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain.
This is how you get, this is straight down the middle, skinny, no propaganda, don't rile up anybody. She's already going to it's white men of a certain religion, Christianity. She is the most hateful person against Christianity that's ever come close to the presidency that I'm aware of. Kamala Harris is not a Christian, but Kamala Harris is an anti-Christian like this bitch is.
Certain point of view, a certain ideology. It's just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for. And we were on the path toward that. I mean, imperfect.
We were on the path to a more perfect union the closer we stayed to our Christian values that the founding fathers said in their own writings. If we ever lose that, you're going to lose the country.
lots of, bumps along the way. But I agree with you. We were on the right trajectory.
Let me.
What? That's not the part I wanted. Anyway, I'll tell you what she said without having to find it. She said we have to tone down the rhetoric on both sides. Okay, that statement by itself sounds great. And then she says, but it's coming mostly from the one side, the right. She goes right into propaganda and stoking the fire. They can't help themselves. RFK's in the Trump administration. Don't take Tylenol. They can't help themselves. To the point where they don't even think about their baby and the truth they were just told. They go online even to make a point of it. See, ha! Somebody in the other room is like, call 911. Dumbass, whore-ass bitch. That's what I call people like that. Sorry for it. Rolos, I didn't vote for Trump because he didn't put her in prison for the first time. That's part of the reason also why I didn't want to vote for him the second time. There's only one reason why I voted, quote unquote, for Trump. And you guys know it if you've been here. I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for RFK because he was going to fix the bull crap in our food and our medicine. At least that's what he said he was going to do. And guess what? He's doing it. I didn't vote for Trump. He was just a pathway to get RFK in there. I had no intentions of voting whatsoever until RFK said that he was going to join the Trump ticket, and they never said it, but I was like, there's only one job for him. That's Health and Human Services Secretary. That's the only job for RFK Jr. They kept saying, oh, yeah, he'll be in his administration, but they never said that because they were smart not to say it. Anyway. Is the bitch still alive? Can't stand her. I agree. It's like I said before with like Charlie Kirk. There aren't many people that are on a pedestal like she is with me in my mind, as far as close as you can get to hate. It's her, it's Fauci, it's a couple people. Fauci is way worse in my mind than Hitler ever was, than Stalin ever was, than Mao Zedong ever was. Because he's killed more people. And more people are dying every day because of him. More people are dying every day because of him. Many, many, many civilians in Ukraine. Now, he didn't have anything to do with the war in Ukraine. Fauci didn't. But many civilians have died in Ukraine because of Fauci. That takes a little bit of connecting the dots. Because Fauci, to circumvent U.S. law on gain of function research, making viruses bigger and having these labs, like the factory in Japan, in China that caused the whole mess, that was to circumvent U.S. law. So he did it in China. Well, he set up 13 of those labs, biolabs, in Ukraine. 12 or 13. Very early in the war, Russia targeted each one of them. Well, they were in business and residential areas. Too bad, that's just where they are. Fauci calls those deaths. If I was Putin, I'd take them out too. Can you imagine? Cuba sets up 13 bio weapon labs, or Mexico, right on the border. We're not going to take them out. That would be dereliction of duty by the President of the United States. I don't blame Putin for that. I'd take him out too. I'm glad he took them out. That's 13 labs that can't come up with the next COVID. So what we've done is we have reached a point, like with the Tylenol women, where we have people in, not just them, but you have people that are in government
and this isn't deep or long, even though I'm an hour into this. See, we've talked about everything on the stream. We have come to a point where we are inviting system collapse because things collapse when they're not run right. If you take a car that's supposed to have an oil change every 15,000 miles or 5,000 miles or whatever it is, just say 5,000 miles, supposed to have an oil change, and you skip the oil change, you wait to 10,000, okay? You're taking somewhat of a risk, probably not too much, but okay. But what if you go to 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 miles? You have ignored what makes the engine work. Or you have a slow leak in the radiator, which cools the engine. You refuse to fill it up because using water to fill it up might harm a species of fish. So you don't want to use the water up for that. And water's a resource that's precious. And so when the car overheats and your engine block cracks, it's destroyed. And you either have to rebuild the engine or get a new engine. The system collapsed because you didn't do what was necessary to keep it going. What everybody knows is necessary to keep it going. You want to go from Arizona to Baltimore, okay, in a car, and you want to drive, and you believe fossil fuels are producing too much carbon, and so that's global warming. So you refuse to fill up gas as you're traveling. Well, you're not going to make it very far, are you? Your system of travel is going to collapse. And this is where we are in this country. And the biggest example is in California. You had the Palisades fire. Now, I'm sure I'm going to forget some of the steps that went wrong here. But for political correctness, you had a reservoir that's supposed to have water in it for the fire department and for people that use their these extinguisher systems that are in houses, whatever, sprinkler systems, whatever. It was empty, and it was empty for months. Why? Oh, because a fish might or might not be harmed by it. And so you don't put fresh water in the reservoir. You have the fresh water coming, but you don't put it in the reservoir because it might hurt a fish somehow. So instead of putting it in the reservoir because you're so mentally deranged, like these people taking Tylenol, you take the water and you throw it into the Pacific Ocean instead. You take a bunch of fresh water and you throw it into the Pacific Ocean, which is going to do more environmental harm, if any, than putting it in a reservoir because you're taking fresh water artificially, millions and millions and millions of gallons at a time. Well, you know, a rainfall does this too. But for some reason, for political correctness, you won't fill the reservoir up. You'll send it into the Pacific instead. At the same time, it's predictable. Every single year in California, you have what's called the Santa Anita winds. Right? I might be pronouncing it wrong. Santa Anita winds, whatever. It comes in the late fall into the early winter. Every stinking year. Santa Anita winds. Very high winds, dry. And it's been dry because the brush around there, it's almost like Arizona. It's not quite as dry, but it's still, I think it's still considered desert there. It's either desert or the next one up from desert, which escapes my brain at the moment. Arid. It's very arid. It's dry. And every year, like here in Arizona, there's a certain time of year where you have a high fire risk because it hasn't rained in a long time. Just the way it is. We get most of our rain July in normal years, July to September, monsoon season. we get about 10 inches of rain a year, a whole 10 inches. And about 7, 6, 7, maybe 8 of those inches come in that short period of time. The rest comes usually the last couple of weeks of January, first week in February. Those are much lighter rains. The rest of the time, basically, it doesn't rain. And then there's certain times in between then we know, like June before the monsoon starts, everything's dry. It's been a long time since it's rained. That's a period of time where there's a high fire risk. There's another high fire risk in the winter, like in the Santa Anita area, because it's been a long time since it's rained. So it's predictable. It happens every stinking year. Just like every year, in most places, it gets hot in June, July, and August. It's that predictable. So in California, they got another brilliant thing going. The brush from the leaves and everything else, everything in nature dies. So you have trees that are, have branches broken off. Some trees have fallen. You have brush that's died. Right? You have weeds that have died, stuff like that. Happens every year. And in the fall, around the Santa Anita time, that brush has to be cleaned out. Otherwise, it's like kindling for a fire. Might as well just pour gasoline down, because that's really what it is if you don't do anything with it. Oh, well, environmentalists say, oh, we can't clean that up because that goes against the environment. It can cause this and that. That's a system breakdown. So when these known winds are coming, you don't clean that out. You don't fill a reservoir with water. Those are two big systematic breakdowns right there. The mayor of the city, if there's one time of year she should be there, it's that time of year. She's over in Africa. Still, as far as I know, nobody knows why. Oh, well, you have the lieutenant governor. Okay. Lieutenant governor's in jail. Nobody's in charge. Systematic breakdown. The governor of the state, as idiotic as the people taking Tylenol, Newsom. He's the one that won't give them the water. He's the one that takes all the water that comes in for free, travels all the way from Canada down the Pacific Northwest into California. They divert it into the ocean. Systematic failure. The governor, the mayor, the lieutenant mayor. If I said lieutenant governor, I'm sorry. Systematic breakdown. And so when the fire department shows up to fight a fire that just broke out, that it's going to break out because it's that time of year, they hook up to the fire hydrant and there's no water. Systemic breakdown. So the place burns down. The systemic breakdown is so bad that the federal government, the slowest of all government agencies, has all the permits done so that they can rebuild there. California, they don't have them done. There's political reasons they don't have them done, but they don't have them done. Doesn't matter what the reasons are. Nobody can rebuild. So it's still a charred wasteland. Systemic breakdown. In Hawaii, where you had the big fires there, no rebuilding, systemic breakdown. Same thing. And what happens is when you get enough of these systemic errors, like not checking your oil, not checking your gas, not checking your radiator fluid, you get enough of those dominoes to fall, like, I don't know, bringing in 20 million illegal aliens, letting people who can't speak English drive on the roads, right? And so they don't know signs. They don't know they can't make a illegal U-turn because they don't know it's illegal. They can't see that it says no U-turn. They don't know anything about the traffic laws, period, because They weren't required to. Systemic breakdown. The government, for political correctness, gave this idiot a driver's license who couldn't speak English, doesn't know the driving laws in this country. And he's driving an 18-wheeler. So you get all these people that can't speak English, that are living off of the system, living off tax dollars, draining the system. And then you have mayors and governors of these states that won't even let the most hardened of criminals be deported out of here. They fight it every step of the way. They get judges who believe the same way they do, have injunctions done nationally, which they're not allowed to do. That's part of a system that broke down. They should know immediately you can't do that. The judicial system broke down. The federal government broke down under the Biden administration. And so you had people that are taxpayers living here. It doesn't matter if they're taxpayers. They could be on welfare or whatever. But American citizens who are living here, who can't find housing because it's way too expensive, because the cheapest place to rent is $5,000 a month. Why is that? Oh, it's because in New York City, every available housing spot and every available hotel is filled up with illegal aliens. And the hotels, they're not stupid. They're charging the government $500 a night for them. And they're gladly paying it. Systemic breakdown. The system can only take so much. It's like you have $10,000 in your bank account. I'm lucky if I have $1, but anyway, you have $10,000 in your bank account. And you have $1,000 coming in every month, but you're spending $1,500 every month. Sooner or later, you're going to have a systemic breakdown in your bank account. It ain't going to function anymore. And we have enough of these big ones now to where the whole government, the whole way of life that we have systemically could break down. And it's teetering on it now. You have pieces of your government, people like Hillary Clinton and that news network we were looking at, who think it's good to know where ICE agents are, who are basically people in, what do they call them? Like the SS in Germany. Okay. I can't remember the exact term they use, but that's what they mean. The Gestapo or stormtroopers. That's what they're, stormtroopers. And so when people go and assassinate them or try to, that's a systemic breakdown, because the people are mental, because they're propagandized. And what you end up coming to the conclusion is the systemic breakdown is on purpose. It's well funded. And we're well along the way. Now, it can break down in several different ways. We could end up with a civil war, which I think we're going to end up with one way or the other, whether it's an actual war, and I'm not calling for any violence. I'm just giving you my prediction. Something's going to give. Something's going to give. You have J.D. Pritzker in Illinois, when he's not at the donut shop. He's telling the government can't come in and stop that because they don't have crime. They have about 10 to 15 people murdered every weekend in Chicago. There's no problem here. Systemic breakdown. And the mayor, the same thing. The mayor is saying, if you see a federal agent, basically go after them. Don't go after the criminals that are killing people. And what they have you thinking is, oh, Trump is going after black and brown people. Like in D.C., they rounded up 1,500 criminals. Well, most of them were black and brown. And guess what? No matter what, they were going to be black and brown. The city's 90% black or 93% black. something like that. There's a very good chance the vast majority of the people are going to be black. And the lives they're saving are black people. When you actually interview black people on the street in Chicago that are actually in these neighborhoods, in DC, they're all for cleaning it up or whatever. These people are scared to death to come out to go to their car if they have a car that hasn't been stolen yet. And I know how DC is. I lived Baltimore 40 miles away, and DC was in my territory. One of the worst nightmares you can have is, oh, it's getting dark and I'm not out of DC yet. What if my car breaks down? I might never see my family again. It's real. It's not made up. And it doesn't matter what their skin color is or isn't. If you're committing a crime, the criminals need to be rounded up and taken off the streets. But they've turned everything into race, all right? Or left versus right. Same thing. They just all intermixed it. And so what they've done is they've brought us all to the brink, literally, of systemic collapse. And most people don't realize it. We're at the boiling point. You can only take so much of it. And again, it's not by accident. It's not by accident what the Biden administration did. I don't really blame Biden too much because I don't think he was with it. It was the nut jobs that were in his administration that did all this. Kamala Harris, she's not demented. She knew what she was doing. And see, the left knows we're at a turning point. I don't know how much or if we've talked about this. I don't think we have actually directly talked about it. The Democrats have a major problem on the federal level for elections moving forward. Most people know that Trump wants to do a census, right? And the left is crying, it's not the time to do the census. It's only once every 10 years. He's going against the Constitution. No, he's not. The Constitution doesn't say you have to do it every 10 years. It says within 10 years you have to do it. You could do it every month if you wanted to. You just can't let more than 10 years go by without doing one. So he wants to do a census. There's a reason for that. The last census in 2020 was rigged, and nobody denies it. I think they did it first. What they did was they undercounted people in red states, and they overcounted people in blue states. Why is this important? Because the census determines how many electoral votes, how many representatives you have, and how many electoral votes you have in that state. For example, when I first moved to Arizona, we had 10 electoral votes. Well, the population keeps growing. We have 11 now. Texas is growing, red state. Florida is growing, red state. New York is shrinking, blue state. California is shrinking, blue state. There's a reason why the blue states are shrinking. People can't stand it anymore because they realize they're close to systemic collapse. And so if they did the census correctly in 2020, which they didn't, and they admit it, we overcounted here and undercounted there. It wasn't by accident, folks. They actually know that when they do the census right, let's say we don't do a census before the next election. I think we will, and it'll be fixed. So we're going to use that assumption. It'll either be fixed in the next election or the one after that if we make it that far. But let's just say it's fixed by 2028. Remember the blue wall that the Democrats need to hold to win? They need to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, those three. Doesn't matter what happens in North Carolina. That's nice if they win North Carolina, South Carolina, whatever, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. But as long as they win the blue wall, they're good. Kamala Harris could have won with only 3 swing states. If she would have won Pennsylvania, Michigan, in Wisconsin, she would have been president. Nothing Trump could do about it. He could win all the other 4 swing states and the first congressional district in Nevada and Nebraska. Well, when you redo the map, let's just replay the 2024 election. Kamala Harris could win all 3 blue wall states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. She could have won all 3 and she still would lose. Under the new census, I think she would end up with 267. She would still lose. And I think with Nebraska's district, she would end up with 268. You need 270 to win. They know this. And the numbers are actually going to be worse than that by the next census 10 years from now, whenever that is. But if they fix it to the 2020 levels, they're done. They have to win a North Carolina and all 3 of the blue. Or one of the other swing states and all 3 of the blue. The math starts to become ridiculous. And there's nothing they can do about it. They're creating their own demise by their policies, driving people out of their states. And they're driving more conservative red people out of the states because they're hurting them the most. The people that are living off the government like it, so they stay. They generally are Democrat. Those who are working and contributing to the system, having businesses, etc., they're the ones being hurt the most. They're leaving. And congressionally speaking, they're screwed even more. You know, the big thing lately has been, remember how the Texas Democrats they wanted to preserve democracy by not being democratic. They fled the state. They fled the interview, just like in Fargo. They fled the interview. They fled the state and went to where? Pritzker's, Illinois. Because they knew he wouldn't help the feds or whoever say where they were to get him back. Okay. So by not having a vote, they were preserving democracy. Texas is finally doing what the Democrat states have done all along. They've gerrymandered the states. If you don't know what that is, you draw these crazy lines to make it either all Republican or as many Republicans as you can get or as many Democrat as you can get. And both sides do it. It's legal, totally legal. And let me show you one of these states, congressional. Let me show you Maryland. No, let me show you Illinois. Okay, yeah, allow it. Wow, why can't I put something in my browser? Just accept all the cookies. I don't care. I'll block it later if it's a problem. Anyway. You accept the cookies? See, that's a government thing. Which I guess is whatever, needed. I have to think that one through. Let's look at this Illinois congressional district map. Now, Illinois, I think it's 47% of the people in Illinois vote Republican. Oh, let's just say it's 40. Maybe it's as low as 40. So 60% Democrat, 40% Republican, right? Okay. Look at this thing. You see that yellow strip that goes from St. Louis in the lower left part of the state? Goes up through the middle of the state and then bends to the right. That's a congressional district. Look at that one.
Look at what surrounds it. The purple one. Why don't they just make the whole thing purple, one congressional district, and give St. Louis as another one? Well, here's the reason. St. Louis is all Democrat. The whole rest of that yellow area, so St. Louis is in the lower left portion of that state, if you can't see it, of that yellow line, that yellow that's surrounded by purple. Well, St. Louis is severely Democrat. The whole rest of that yellow area is Republican. But because they include St. Louis in it, the Republicans can't overcome it. Even if all the Republicans vote, St. Louis will outdo it. So that's a Democrat district. That's gerrymandering. Believe it or not, it's legal. And so the Massachusetts, here's how bad the system is. So when Texas voted to give them basically 4 more Republican districts, which means Jasmine Crockett is likely out of a job. And so is the guy with the cane. His name isn't worth remembering at the moment. He's out of a job. So Texas finally said, hey, we're going to do this more representative of what the state actually votes. They've been way bent over towards the Democrats in representation compared to what it should be. So anyway, Gavin Newsom lit a fire that is worse than the Palisades, because this shows how stupid his thinking is. Oh, okay. We're going to redraw so we get 4 or 5 more Democrat districts in California, which is already way over represented compared to how they vote to the Democrats, because that's the Democrats have been in control long enough. They gerrymandered the state well enough to where the Democrats control way more than how the people vote. It's just how it is. So to make up for the 4 that Texas did, he's going to gerrymander 4 other Republicans districts so that they're back on a level playing field. Okay. He lit a fire. Missouri said, oh, okay, we'll do it too. Ohio said, okay, we'll do it too. Florida said, okay, we'll do it too. These are red states. He's going to lose by 14 or 15 districts. Congress is basically, you need 218 to control the House. It's basically 219 to 216 or 215. It's very close. It won't be. If all these states go through with what they said because of Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom, I don't think is going to be able to do it because the people in his state, Gavin Newsom, his state actually requires that the people have to vote to approve this. It's a constitutional amendment or something they passed saying, oh, no, you can't do this unless, because they were gerrymandering. The people said, no, we don't want that. We want the people to have to approve it before you gerrymander. So they passed it in California. Well, my understanding is the latest poll shows 60% of the people are against it. Gerrymandering in California. So he's likely not going to be able to get it done. The vote is coming up in November. Probably won't pass. So his gerrymandering of 4 more Democrats is done. But they're so bad in their thinking. He's causing his own systemic collapse. All these other states, Texas has already done it. Florida's going to do it, and it's going to fly. There's no opposition there. Even if there was, it's like a peanut against an elephant. The elephant's going to win. And the same thing with these other states, Ohio, whatever. They're vast majority Republican already. So this idiot in Massachusetts, this idiot governor of Massachusetts, don't know her name, don't remember it, doesn't matter. She's one of the a peanut has more intelligence. She has a press conference. Everybody's behind her. Well, because Texas did this, we're going to do it too. Threatening, right? There's only one problem. Massachusetts, I believe, it's a lot more Democrat, has 30 or 35% of the people vote Republican, maybe up to 40%. Guess how many Republican congressional districts are in Massachusetts? 0.
They've already gerrymandered the whole state so that there's no Republican representation. So she does this press conference making a big deal out of it, which is another light to the match that Gavin Newsom, to the fire he already lit. She poured gasoline on it. She can't do anything about it. She can hem and haw all day. What's she going to do? Gerrymander it some more? When you have 100% already, what are you going to do? You can't add more. That's the problem the Democrats have. They're so mentally incompetent, they don't realize we've already done this to the max. We can't get enough out of it to counterban any Republicans doing it. So they're screwed. So if everybody does it in time by the next election, Democrats don't have a chance to hold the House. They're not going to have a chance to hold the presidency after the next census. Their party has, at best, a 32% approval rating. That doesn't win elections. They have caused their own systemic collapse in their own party. And what happens is, if you don't know how it works in politics, when a party, it doesn't happen often in the United States, so you don't get a gist of it. You only have like third parties or whatever that end up going away. What happens is, if a party is dying, like the Democrat Party is, what happens is the most extreme elements of that party are the ones that start making the most noise, get the most attention, and get the most votes and things like that. This is why you have the AOCs and the Ilhan Omar, and the communists now that may win New York City. You probably will win New York City. You have the very extreme of a party that gets all the attention, all the votes. And what happens is the people that are more in the mainstream, the ones that, yeah, they're Democrat, but they're not willing to take Tylenol when they're pregnant just because RFK's on the other side. See, that's the extreme part of the party. And so what they do is they self-ignite themselves eventually, to where the people that are more moderate, they start leaving. They might not join Republicans, but they may become independent. And the people in the extreme, in this case, they start killing themselves off. They go to anarchy. They go to people being murdered dozens at a time in their cities. They kill themselves off. And what happens is you have people on the other side who are compassionate to a point, but that's stopping. What's going to happen when Portland runs out of money? When Chicago runs out of money? You know, would you want to be a business in these places where you hear gunshots every few minutes? So they cause their own systemic collapse. And what happens is, when it gets so severe, like it's getting now, so extreme on one side, that you start losing compassion from the other. So that when Chicago reaches out, oh, we need $100 million, or the rest of the country is going to say, too bad, you did it to yourself. And so what you're going to end up with, I think, is you're going to end up with these places that are going to think, oh, we could do this better ourselves. California, let's secede. Oregon, let's secede. Washington, let's secede. Illinois, let's secede. Or let's form our own country that's away from these, what they think are nuts. And they won't last at all. And so what you're going to need is you're going to need heavily armed militias on the other side, because you're going to end up with people infighting. Because the people that have not, because they destroyed it all, are going to come after people that have. It's like you're the grocery store. Everything else is void of food. You don't want to let them have the food in the grocery store. And so they're going to come with whatever they have to try to take the food because they get desperate. That's where we're heading. That's the systemic collapse that we're on right now. And it's going to be, I guess, interesting to see how it plays out. I'm glad I don't have that long to go. I can't imagine being 30 years old right now, trying to raise a family, knowing this is getting ready to happen. And where do you go? You don't go to the UK. You don't go to the EU. They're further along the path than we are. Different ways, but they're further along. They're locking people up in the UK for tweets. We're not that far yet on that. But we will shut down your channel. So that's basically it with the subject tonight. So what's happening? Anybody want to? Some say the government may shut down September 30th. Oh, that would be so wonderful. Here's what happens in a government shutdown. Nothing. All the essential stuff works. Anything that's deemed not essential, they don't get paid until the government comes back, which it always does. Then they'll give them back pay. They don't have to, but they always do. Nobody wants to be the politician that says, nope, you don't get it because we were closed. There is something that Trump can do if the government closes, and the Democrats know it. That's why I don't think it's going to close. He can fire whomever he wants. Any non-essential employee, he can just boom, 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 boom. No due process, no nothing. And they're just now realizing it on the other side. I don't think we're going to close. And if we do, we just save money every day it's closed, or you think you do until they pay everybody back. It's just smoke and mirrors. It's a show. It's a circus. Newsom thinks he's going to be president. Yeah, he thinks a lot, doesn't he? He thinks enough to be dangerous is what he does. The problem is there are fools that believe in him, like fools that believed in Kamala Harris. What did she stand for? Ask anybody that voted for her. What did she stand for? She's not Trump. Here's your answer. They can't answer because she didn't stand for anything. She stood for nothing. Absolutely nothing. And she thought that would get her votes. And guess what? It did. And what'd you hear on election night? Same crap that you know is coming. She lost because there's too many people that are prejudiced. They wouldn't vote for a black woman. No, she got way more votes than anybody would have gotten because she was a black woman. I don't remember anybody. I'm sure it happened. People wouldn't vote for her because she's a black woman, or that she's black, or that she's a woman. She wasn't really black. So whatever. Who cares? Doesn't matter. That wasn't, I would vote for, what's his name? Can't remember his name. He's black. I would vote for him. What do I care what their color is? I don't care what their color is. I really don't care what their gender is, but I do care more about gender than color. That's for sure. Because people think differently. Women are more emotional, generally speaking. You have to consider that. Anyway. Person after person after person after person they would interview. I'm voting for her because she's a woman. We need a woman in the way. We need a woman. Not what she stands for because she stood for nothing. But we need a black woman. That's why they were voting for her. Over and over. You could play probably 3 hours of clips of people being interviewed. Why are you voting for Kamala? Oh, she's a woman. It was the exact opposite. Everything's the exact opposite of what they preach to you. This is why people are screwbally and take Tylenol while they're pregnant. Or sit in their car by themselves and drive with a mask on. MAGA hat for the left. Thank you for identifying yourself. I appreciate it. I see somebody walking around with a mask on. I know what political aisle they're on.
just as like they're wearing a MAGA hat. Might as well. If I see a person wearing a MAGA hat, I know what side of the aisle they're on. If I see someone wearing a mask at the grocery store, I know what side of the aisle they're on. Now, there is a slight chance I could be wrong with the mask person, but not very much. Very low percentage. I want to go back to the Bill O'Reilly books because there's one I wanted to see what his conclusion was. So his conclusion was exactly what the government says with Kennedy and with Lincoln. So let's see if he keeps it going. Well, I guess the only other two are Killing Jesus and Killing Patton. I'm curious. Let me have AI summarize it. Bill O'Reilly wrote a book called Killing Jesus. Please summarize the book with the pertinent points and conclusion and give it to me now. Have no clue. It better go on with the Gospels. But if it does, why write a book? It narrates the life, teachings, and crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth. Sort of like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, whatever. Focusing on the historical, social, and political turbulence of first century Judea and Roman occupation. And people would pay a penny for that is beyond me. The authors state their goal is to present a factual, non-theological account of Jesus as a historical figure. Let's see if we gain some new insights from this book. That probably costs $50. I don't know what it costs. If it's 50 cents, it's too much. Key points emphasized in this book include, here we go. Again, I don't know where this is going. I'll bet you don't get anything if it's true outside of what's in the Gospels. It sets the stage by detailing the cruel reign of King Herod the Great. See, he had all the children 2 years and under killed in a city. I would say that's cruel. I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for Bill O'Reilly, though. The corruption and decadence of the Roman Empire. Really? Like every empire. And the political struggles in Rome. Oh my. This provides the backdrop of oppression and unrest in Judea, which the authors argue was crucial to understanding Jesus' life. Really? Jesus is a threat to power. The narrative portrays Jesus' teachings and growing influence as a direct threat to both the Roman authorities and the Jewish religious elite. Really? His book's anti-Semitic. To the Romans, especially the procurator Pontius Pilate. Never heard that name before. Thank you, Bill O'Reilly. Jesus was a troublesome rebel or agitator whose popularity could ignite a political revolt against Roman rule. The messianic ideas associated with Jesus were inherently political, as the Messiah was expected to liberate the Jews from their oppressors. Really? Never could have got that from the Gospels. The Jewish elite, like the temple priest and Sanhedrin, Jesus was a menace who threatened their authority and their cooperative relationship with the Romans, which maintained their own power and stability. The cleansing of the temple, for example, is presented as an attack on the priest's commercial interests. That wasn't their big deal, but okay. I'll give it to you. The final days. The book chronicles the final days of Jesus' ministry. Thank God he does, because you can't find it anywhere else. The events of Holy Week. It's not called Holy Week. Error. His betrayal by Judas Iscariot. Oh, man. He found out somebody who betrayed him. Often speculated to be an attempt to force Jesus' hand into an armed revolt. What? His betrayal by Judas Iscariot, often speculated to be an attempt to force Jesus' hand into an armed revolt. That makes no sense to me. Speculated by who? Bill O'Reilly? His arrest and trials before the Jewish and Roman authorities, and his eventual scourging and crucifixion. The execution is detailed to illustrate the brutality of Roman methods. A man, not the Messiah. In this telling, the authors intentionally focus on Jesus as a man and do not address his role as the Messiah or his divinity. That might cover too much of it, because that's what he was. Striving for a purely historical account. Well, how are you going to have a purely historical account if you take out him being the Messiah? Why was Rome and the Jewish authorities so upset if he wasn't claiming to be the Messiah? They weren't going to crucify him because he overturned tables at the temple. They crucified him because he was claiming to be the Messiah. Miracles are either omitted or treated as widespread legends. This is Bill O'Reilly for you. Rumors, his miracles were rumors that fueled the fear of the authorities. Wow. They don't even talk about the miracles. When he raised Lazarus from the dead, that was the final straw. That was the straw that got him crucified. That is what Lazarus and the rich man is all about. We'll get there one day, if I'm still alive. Conclusion. Execution as politically necessary wasn't politically necessary. It was religiously necessary. The ultimate conclusion is that Jesus was executed as a political and social necessity by the combined power of the Roman and Jewish authorities. He was not killed for purely religious reasons. If Jesus didn't claim to be the Messiah, which you didn't even talk about, none of this would have come up. But because he was a disruptive force. Why was he a disruptive force? Because he claimed to be the Messiah and had authority over the religious leaders and said the religious leaders were bunk. So he threw out the main part of what brought him to his crucifixion. Unbelievable. Because he was a disruptive force whose messaging and following of what? You didn't cover anything religious. Destabilized a tense and fragile political system. Enduring impact. The book concludes by reflecting on the immediate impact of Jesus' death on his loyal followers who believed he was resurrected. The book concludes by reflecting on the immediate impact of Jesus' death to his loyal followers who believed he was resurrected. Well, that must come as a surprise if you don't know anything about Jesus. You read this book. He's not talking about anything religious that he claimed to be the Messiah or anything, but somehow he's resurrected. Yeah, that must come as a surprise to the reader. It emphasizes how their unwavering belief and subsequent efforts ultimately led to the foundation of the early Christian movement, which you know nothing about from this book, which profoundly and permanently affected world history. So you want to go out and buy his book now, Killing Jesus? Unfreaking believable. How did the church used to put it?
Merchandising the brethren. That's Bill O'Reilly. He merchandises his followers or people that watch him or like him. He merchandises them. He gets you to buy a book about Kennedy that says exactly what everybody else in authority has been saying since the killing happened. He gets you to buy a book about Lincoln, killing Lincoln, which nobody has said differently in history about. It's what the authorities say. But he gets you to buy a book about it because you're going to learn all these insights. He gives you this Killing Jesus book, and he leaves out the main thrust of what caused him to be crucified. And then somehow circles back to his divinity or Christianity. Nuts. Freaking nuts, people that buy that shit. Now, if you don't know it first and you buy it, I get it. I got to do it. If he says Patton was killed exactly the way, unbelievable. What a shyster. He's worse than I thought. Wow. There we go. Now give me the same kind of result for Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing Patton. If he comes back with the exact same official narrative about Patton's death, it's 100% merchandising. If he gives you nothing new about anything, why is he charging for it? I don't know who this Martin Dugard's person is, but this is who he goes into business with doing books. Martin probably has close relationships with publishers who were like, this Bill O'Reilly comes merchandises people because we know you, though. We'll do this. The Strange Death. Whoa, what the? This gives me tons of stuff, but I'm going to just read the conclusion. The assassination claim. The book's central and most controversial claim is that General Patton's death was not an accident, but an assassination. Yay! You scored 1 point with me. The authors float the theory that Patton was specifically targeted by Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. Take away the point and subtract about 300. Oh my goodness. Stalin? He was about to dial a dime about what the Americans were doing. Stalin would have been all for it. Stalin. Because his anti-Soviet warnings threatened Stalin's ambitions for post-war Eastern Europe. Unfreaking believable. A conspiracy of silence. The narrative suggests that even if U.S. officials were not directly involved in the initial accident, they may have looked the other way. Now, how in U.S.-occupied Germany, right at the end of the war, because this is where the accident happened, how did Stalin have influence on that? Oh, my goodness. U.S. officials were not directly involved in the initial accident, accident. They may have looked the other way or failed to protect him. May have. You're going to buy a book where you get may, hem, and haw? Yeah. I was listening to a donkey. Yeah. Perhaps even allowing a poisoning while he was hospitalized to silence a highly influential and disruptive critic of U.S. post-war policy toward the Soviets. His thing about the Soviets was part of Patton, but it was not his main thing. He wanted to expose the corruption and problems on the American side that had many people killed for political correctness during the war. That's not even hidden crap. That's known. So we're going to let a five-star general be murdered by Stalin because he's anti-Soviet. We're going to look the other way. The conclusion ultimately hinges on the reader's interpretation of circumstantial evidence and a former secret agent's unverified confession. So they're using a confession of somebody that's unverified, and you're going to pay for this crap? The official cause of death, pulmonary embolism following the accident, is presented as deeply suspicious. I can't even read more of it. It's so crazy. He struck out on all of them. I guess he figured, well, I'll come up with one where I disagree with the official narrative, and then I'm not just a guy in a box. That's right, Angus. You're supposed to assimilate. Another problem is allowing immigrants that are new to the country, know nothing about the way of life, our history, our culture, should not be able to run for office, but their children will be able. You know, when we still had sanity, even like Italians. So many Italians came in and then they said that's enough. Why? Because they needed to have enough Italians learn English. They had to assimilate. They had to learn our culture, which was close. And the culture wasn't a big deal, but the language always is. Language, culture, border. Without any one of those three, you lose your country. We're losing the language. We're losing the culture. And we lost the border for 4 years. All three legs of the under the table holding it up were kicked out. So what they would do is they would say, no, we can't have any more Italian immigrants until they have enough children who learn the English language. And that, so what happens is the children, because they live at home with Italian only speaking parents, they become bilingual. So then at a certain point, let's just say by the age of 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there, the children can help the adults assimilate or know what's going on. All right, Dad, this is what they said. And they'll say it in Italian or whatever. Until you had enough of that, you couldn't allow any more Italians. Same thing with Germans. Same thing with any country until we became taking Tylenol while you're pregnant. That's what they did to everybody. Sissy May. Oh, perfect. There was a man on a motorcycle without safety helmet and wearing a mask. The brain was already gone, Sissy May. That's why he just wanted to protect the lungs. Coffee time and listening. Glad you're still here, Peter. Lucifer BM. Don't know what you're saying. We sprechen Sie English. Uh-oh. Rolos. Not speaking for Rich. These are my thoughts. So that means something controversial was going on. Rolos. Generally, if Rolos says something, he's probably speaking my thoughts. Generally. I can't say that always. I mean, Rolos believes in purgatory where there's 8 different levels before you get out. I'm just kidding. He doesn't believe that. I don't think it. No, I know he doesn't. Just joking. So we went 2 hours, and guess what? I'm not sweating.
Hey, Sissy May, if I remember right, you're in the roughly the central part of Alabama, west central. There's going to come a time when I go to Alabama, I think, to visit a friend in the Mobile area. He doesn't live in Mobile, but he's close. He lives in Gulf Shores. And if I drive, especially, I'll come and see you if you want, if you'd like a visit. Angus wants to know what's coming. Rolos says every time people say the letter R, you have to roll it. That's coming. They're changing English to it. Tomorrow should be a good day since it's going to be cold tonight. Let me check to make sure. Yeah, more rain. I don't care. As long as it doesn't do what it did today, knock my lights out. Wow. We're almost as cold as Baltimore right now. We're 72. You know how cold, quote unquote, 72 is? Convert 72 degrees to Celsius. 23? 22. 22 degrees Celsius for those in Canada, eh? So 35% chance of thunderstorms tomorrow. 83, 83, 88, 89, 90, 92, 93, 92, 92. I don't believe the 92, 93. That's probably going to be 98 to 101 by the time it gets there. We'll see. But the cool thing is, it's going to get down in the 60s at night. That's awesome. There are nights here in Arizona, the low temperature is 90. That's the low temperature. Convert 90 degrees to Celsius. 32 degrees Celsius. Convert 112 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius. 44. That's about the average we've had for the last 3 months. 40 to 44 degrees. Yep, Angus, you got it. And now, see, the people in charge, the people that would take Tylenol, they don't want to change. See, the elite want this because what that does is it leads to the systemic. That's what they want. They want a systemic collapse because if there's a systemic collapse, all you have is the elite and the serfs. That's it. You don't have people in, different styrations, up and down, different strata. They don't want that. They want two strata. The bottom and the top. That's your levels. They don't like all this in between. Yeah, D&B. So imagine that. Now, I don't know what the number was this year, but last year it was 100 days in a row above 42 degrees Celsius. And that, when it's like that, it's sunny. It's convert 145 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius. 63 degrees Celsius. That's what it feels like as soon as you hit the sun. No lie. It's what it feels like. And if you have a thermometer and you're out in the sun, it gets to that very fast. If you let's say you drop a penny on the street in the summer here, unless you pick it up immediately, you don't pick it up. This is why I know that when they take a copper wire covered with plastic and pull it out from the lunar module on the moon, where it's 250 degrees Fahrenheit, it's boiling, 100 degrees Celsius.
I think they say 115, 120 in Celsius. That's the official moon temperature. So when they take this coiled up wire covered with plastic on an antenna that's aluminum, and they pull it out and just stick it down in the ground, on the ground, and it's pointed up at the earth. It's so precise. That wire and that plastic isn't lasting long. It's going to be a melted mess. Ask AI about it, though. No, it had special this and special that. I went into a deep dive on the batteries. They had these expensive silver nickel batteries. Well, I don't know what kind of batteries they had. And that's how they were able to do all of this air conditioning or whatever. And I was like, they can't do this now. Oh, well, they had special cooling that you don't have in your house. They had a special way to evacuate into a vacuum, which causes more cooling. Oh, really? That's a new way on me. I'm a meteorologist. If you do it, if you evacuate the air into a vacuum, it cools more? How? It's not evaporative cooling. There's no moisture to evaporate. The only cooling that's possible on the moon is what's called radiative cooling, radiation cooling. That's where a coin or something like that will keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter until it reaches a certain point. Can't remember the scientific term right now, but it reaches a certain point where it's radiating the heat off at the same point that it's being heated. And so it maintains the temperature. But that's at a very, very hot level. And so this stupid I said, look, I kept arguing with it. I said they had basically 2 big truck batteries. They had more than 2 batteries. They had 4. And the later missions had more than that. I was like, okay, let's get rid of that. How many amp hours did they have? 2,200 or whatever number they gave me. I was like, with 2,200 amp hours, I can't air condition a room with a small room air conditioner for 4 hours. Not even 4 hours, won't even kick it on. Oh, they had much better technology than I was like, why don't we have this technology now? How come I can't get an air conditioner that's that efficient? How come I can't get batteries that's that efficient? Oh, it's too expensive. That's what it tells you. It's too expensive for the common person to want to get that. No, I'd want to get that. I'll pay extra for these superior batteries and air conditioning that's going to be so freaking efficient. It'll run for 25, 30 hours on 2 batteries, 1 charge. Are you kidding me? I'd save hundreds every month in air conditioning fees. How much do these batteries cost? It's bull crap. At 32, and we feel like we are cooking. I bet you do, DMB. It's all relative to where you are and where you're used to, what you're used to. The vacuum of space is enough to prove they didn't go to outer space. Oh man, I hope I have this. I know I have it saved for my physics nephew and my chemistry, both with high degrees. One has a PhD, one has a master's. I can't understand why I think the earth is flat and why I believe we didn't go to the moon. These are science people that when you pin them down, because I'm going to pin them down, I haven't answered the question. My sister, the wife of the chemist and the mother of the PhD in physics, told me that was the question. Why does Rich believe? I'm thinking, you're a freaking scientist. Why do you believe what you believe? You can't demonstrate it. You can't demonstrate what you say. Well, Newton's third law says that if you expel gas, it can move and blah. Oh, really? Can you demonstrate that? Yeah, every rocket that goes to space demonstrates. No, that's not. That's bullshit. That's you saying it. I should be able to demonstrate it. Well, someone did demonstrate it.
They expelled gas from a quote unquote rocket. See if I can find it real fast. If I can, I can't, but it didn't move. Didn't move until the gas hit the edges of the vacuum, the wall in the vacuum chamber, came back and hit it. Then it moved. Demonstrated and can be repeated. You can't move a rocket in space. Won't work. Elon Musk admits his quote unquote satellites, you can call them satellites, that's okay, are in low Earth orbit. And he knows Elon Musk is extremely precise with his words. Good or bad, whatever. You have to, his language is always precise. He says all of the Starlink satellites are in low Earth orbit. He knows what low Earth orbit means. Sorry if I mispronounced words. I have a tooth back here that was pulled 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever. And I'm still not used to talking without it. It affects my speech. And if I would have known that, I would have got an implant so they could put something in there. But I didn't know it. I couldn't afford it either way. So I got to deal with that. Let's see if it's in this list here. No, I got to make sure. I got this video. Remember how we talked before? If they make it ridiculous and stupid and cartoonish, they're lying to you. For those who haven't seen it, I'm going to show this. We haven't seen this in a while. We need a little levity tonight. Woke bear. I don't know much about it, but the torque pressure from Earth to space would be impossible to survive explosion. I believe you, woke bear. You know, one of the arguments I had with one of the globetards had to do with the Tesla supposedly in space. Remember that BS? And I said those tires should be blowing out. And his argument was, no, they shouldn't. His argument was they're pressurized to 30, 40, whatever. We agreed on 35 pounds per square inch. They're pressurized to 35 pounds per square inch. And the atmosphere is only 14 pounds per square inch. So there's only about 25 pounds per square inch difference. You don't see that blowout, do you? He goes, in space, it's only 14 pounds per square inch difference. It goes to zero. I said, you're looking at it the wrong way. You're going from 35 pounds per square inch to infinity on the scale. You're not cutting 50% off and going to 14 pounds per square. You're cutting 100% off. You're going from 0 to 35. Plus every single thing in that car that's holding liquid, whatever, would have spewed all over the place immediately as soon as they got out of atmosphere, even before they got out of atmosphere. They don't want to see the truth. We argued Coriolis until I found a video. I found a satellite loop of low pressure moving the wrong way. At first it was a tornado. I said, look, here's a tornado going clockwise. If it's by what you say it is, the Coriolis effect, there will be zero exceptions to the rule because it's physics. They know that. If it's physics, it's physics. Back and to the left means they were shot in the front right. Physics is physics until it comes to Kennedy's assassination. Then science is out the window. So say, here's a tornado. It's going the wrong way. It's going clockwise in the northern hemisphere. Oh, no, Rich. It's got to be something large like a hurricane or whatever. Which
large low pressure systems have been shown to spin the wrong way in the wrong way they think it should be. Should be impossible with physics. Not impossible if it's caused by what direction the hot and cold air are coming from, which is opposite directions in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere, what they call a hemisphere. You can't show me an exception with large. God provided. No doubt. The day I went looking for a satellite image, there it was. It was a huge low pressure system over South America, south of the equator. And instead of spinning counterclockwise the way it should have, it was spinning clockwise. You know what he said? I never saw it. I said, I showed it on the stream. Well, I never saw it. I said, well, the stream's still up. Go look at it. Nothing. You can show them. They'll still take the Tylenol if they're pregnant. That's my new thing. What am I looking for here? Looking for this video. On the tides. What is going on here? Okay, I don't know what's going on, but it's not working. Let me do this. That's not it. This is it. Hold on. So let's see what we get scientifically about the tides. You cannot demonstrate the tides. It should be 100%. If it's a high tide when the moon is over you, it should be a high tide everywhere when the moon is over you. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a low tide. Sometimes it's in between. Ask AI about it. It'll give you the biggest gobbledygook ever. Well, sometimes it takes time and undulations in the land make it different. I said, well, you can do this with islands where there's no inlet, whatever. AI won't go there either. It can't do it. It's garbage in, garbage out. I can't wait for the stream to end so I can get Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing Jesus, so I can know the truth. I'm actually curious how he goes through a book where he doesn't talk about his Christianity. He purposely avoids it, but then talks about how that goes against the leaders of Judaism. How do you tie that in? Well, Jesus was talking something and they didn't like it. I don't even know how you do that. There we go. This is an oldie but goodie, and a lot of people have seen this. Oh my goodness. The dumber it is, the more you know you're being sold. You're being sold a snow job.
Ridiculous video that you're watching is actually the official mainstream position for what causes tides.
It is ridiculous. There's truth at the beginning of this.
According to the heliocentric model. I share this video again because this video epitomizes the stupidity of the heliocentric model and the mindless devotion of the globe faithful.
Oh, this is somebody has changed this. Oh, let's take a look at it.
Who are incapable of seeing how genuinely idiotic these claims are. Just watch this video.
The oceans, being literally fluid, actually can be pulled toward the moon. And this is what creates the tide. The moon's here, it's pulling on the ocean at the top of the earth, creating a high tide on the top.
Never more than 20 degrees, I think, from the equator. It's never on top of the earth. Never. And I thought about it a little bit. I was like, oh, I know why they're doing this. because if they showed it where it really is, people would realize, oh, this is stupid. Anyway.
Now on the bottom, another high tide is created because the Earth itself is pulled toward the moon.
Well, if the Earth itself is pulled towards the moon and creates an equal high tide on the other side, they always show it as equal. That can't, that's impossible. Then the one up here would go away. Right? But it's pulling the Earth more than it's pulling the water.
Even though the oceans down here have less gravitational pull exerted on them, being farthest away from the moon. So on the top and bottom, you have high tide because of the tidal bulges, and on the sides that are at right angles to the moon, you have low tide because the oceans stretch thin over the surface of the Earth. Pretty crazy, huh?
Crazy is absolutely right. The tides have no relation to the position of the moon, as even admitted here on this government website, which already debunks the nonsense. But it's even more than that. We're supposed to believe that the moon can pull up the water of the oceans and even the Earth itself, but the alleged gravitational pull of the moon and sun have no measurable effect on anything else on Earth. No electronic scale, no flight, no accelerometer, no weather balloon. Nothing is affected by these gravity giants. How dumb is that? And no, oceans do not constitute a giant solid object that you can count as a single object. Even a child could see how ridiculous this is. To be clear, it doesn't bother me that the atheistic, heliocentric faithful have some asinine theory as to how the tides work. Everyone is entitled to their ideas and religions. What bothers me is that this stupidity is presented as a scientific fact that cannot be questioned, and the vast majority just go along with it. Whether it's evolution, whether it's the bending of space-time, whether it's disappearing Earth bulges, whether it's air pressure that automatically makes airplanes adjust for the curvature of the Earth, whether it's unknown forces that cause sonar, radio waves, and VHF waves to ignore curvature, whether it's gravity that can hold the atmosphere adjacent to the vacuum of space. No matter how stupid the claim, no matter how preposterous the explanation, no matter the total lack of evidentiary support, any ridiculous pseudoscience decree is accepted as fact without question, so long as it supports the narrative. If you truly can't see how dumb this is, then please unsubscribe and go somewhere else where you and others can congratulate yourselves on the utter nonsense you have.
There's something I want to catch here.
Unsubscribe and go somewhere.
This is what I missed. Something used on spacecraft since the 1970s.
Unsubscribe and go. Then please unsubscribe.
Oh, gold plating technology.
And go somewhere else where you and others can congratulate yourselves on the utter nonsense you have come to accept based solely on what someone else told you to believe. I pity you.
Pretty crazy, huh?
I thought it was the actual video, which is
Watch
so stupid. What is a drop top, Sissy May? I was thinking Elon's car was a drop top. See, Elon made the mistake of saying it wasn't modified in any way, except the camera was added. Alrighty, I think I'm going to go, guys. I'm glad we were able to hang out. I'm sorry it was late starting, but better late than never. Monday should be on time as long as nothing pops up and we don't have an electrical failure again. So we should be good to go there. Thanks for being here. We've had 19 pretty much the whole stream. That's fantastic. So God bless everybody. Oh, a convertible. I got you. I don't think it was. Oh, I don't know. I have to go back and look at it again. I wanted to ask you guys, good night, Woke Bear. Well, I'll ask you Monday, but keep it in mind for Monday. I'd like to get a list of topics from you guys that you may want me to cover or whatever. And I'm thinking if we get 2 or 3 people that agree on the same thing, we'll do it. Peter, great to see you as well. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And God bless you as well. So we'll be back, God willing, Monday. Everybody, please have a blessed weekend. Yeah, we'll see you then. God bless everyone, and take care. Bye-bye.